Just look at this while I sip my tea. So, a couple of days ago, the Christian Broadcasting Network published this article stating Brazilian parents sentenced to 50 days in jail for homeschooling their girls. Wild. This is 2026. So I'm going to go through this article. I'm not going to take long, but it would help for you guys to understand the nature of what goes on in Brazil regarding homeschooling. It's a crime. They say it's not really a crime, but it's a crime. You'll see. So a judge in Brazil has sentenced a mother and a father to prison for 50 days because they decided to homeschool their children, accusing them of intellectual neglect and failing to teach them tolerance and diversity. This line makes zero sense. And I get this is a Christian Broadcasting Network writing this article, so they're writing it based on their bias. But to be completely honest, when you run things through a Christian bias, it helps you understand the nature of things to a degree that you're just like, okay, I can better understand what's going on in a neutral sense. Dato and Lida Denardi began homeschooling their daughters, 15, 11, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, during the pandemic in 2020 after recognizing shortcomings in their public schools' remote learning programs. Now, mind you, this isn't only the remote learning programs. This is actually their public school system. The shortcomings in their public schools' remote learning programs is a direct reflection of their public school systems. I looked this up. I said, I'm going to find this for you guys real quick. Check this out. I searched Brazil public school ranking compared to other countries. Brazil's public education system significantly underperforms compared to developed nations and even regional peers. In the OECD's global PISA tests, Brazil typically ranks in the bottom 25 to 30% of participating countries. Brazilian public school students trail behind wealthier nations by the equivalent of several years of learning. And here are some of their ranks. Math typically ranks around 70th out of roughly 80 participating countries. That's low, bro. Like the US isn't much better, and that speaks for more homeschooling. But dog, this is not good. And frankly speaking, criminalizing people for homeschooling their kids, making it an actual crime, that should be a crime. So let's keep reading. In doing so, they joined about 75,000 homeschooling families in Brazil. Little did the couple know their choice could cost them their freedom. So the parents decided to homeschool their kids, and they joined about 75,000 homeschooling families in Brazil. You would ask yourself, well, how did they get chosen to be the martyrs for this trend that people want to get into? It's unfortunate. They just pick someone to make an example out of, to try to scare the other people to follow suit. Hey, do this thing that we're telling you to do. So they saw homeschooling as a caring parental choice intended to give their daughters the best education possible. However, state prosecutors viewed it as an administrative offense for failing to register the children in a formal state accredited school. Why? What are you going to teach them that the parents can't teach them? Diversity? Okay. Did the parents go to school? Yeah. Okay. So what's the problem? Are the parents too stupid now since they've been out of school for how many years? What's the problem? I actually don't understand what the problem is here. The judge accused them of using their daughters as pawns in an ideological struggle while completely excluding the state's involvement. They're using their daughters as pawns? How do you use your children as pawns in an ideological struggle? By that, they mean the ideological struggle is saying that they could better educate their system than a public funded school system that has 15 to sometimes 30 kids under one teacher for less than an hour for each subject every day for 5 days in a row for 18 years of their life. That's the ideological struggle. And frankly speaking, this is people just throwing their power around. This is the government just throwing their weight around, telling people exactly what to do with their children. Isn't that the problem? You're already failing. You're at the bottom tier of the educational list compared to other countries. Yeah, it said wealthy countries, but you still want to be competing. The countries that perform, they call them developing countries, but really they're still third world countries because they're not developing. If they were developing, they would have developed by now. They're not developing. They're third world countries. That's how they're going to stay until there's a complete change. But either way, they're saying that they rank so low that they are forcing parents parents to not send their kids to their public school. And to lay this flat out, they're basically saying that we want to indoctrinate your kids. Because when you go back up here, their reason for this is the parents would fail to teach them tolerance and diversity. Are you kidding me? Tolerance and diversity? Yeah, try having siblings and not understand tolerance and diversity. Yeah, public schools are going to teach you tolerance and diversity. When kids bring pistols to school every day, bring weapons to school every day to protect themselves against other kids, you have drama that completely destroy the lives of kids for years on end. You have horrible social dynamics between people because that's my friend group and that's my friend group. As a matter of fact, I was the in-between guy. I wasn't the popular guy. I wasn't the least popular guy. I wasn't the nerd. I wasn't the book guy. I wasn't the sports guy. Even though I played sports with a bunch of popular people, had friends who were different ethnicities, and I associated with people whom I came up with from elementary school who were in different friend groups, and I was the in-between guy. So you have someone like me who's, I guess, level-headed, could be friends with anyone, but I'm just stuck. Like, are these guys my friends? And they'll do exclusive things and leave me out. Half of the time, I don't even know what they do. Half of the inside jokes I had no idea about because they decided to do their things that they were exclusive with each other on. Awesome social dynamics. So I just have to pick a friend group and be associated with them and neglect everyone else. Great. So yeah, that's why you have the popular people, the jocks, the school nerds, the theater kids, the book nerds, not school nerds, the book nerds, the geeks. Like, these stereotypes don't just come out of nowhere. They developed because kids generally have horrible social dynamics and social pairings. Horrible, atrocious. So you mean to tell me the teachers are going to teach these kids how to be socially adapt and tolerance and diversity? Brother, tolerance and diversity amongst kids? You basically want to throw a bomb down a well and just wait till it explodes, because it's going to explode at some point. It's going to explode. Anyway, so the judge accused them of using their daughters as pawns. Awesome. Great. So the prosecutor examined the witnesses and recommended for acquittal. An independent educational psychologist found no sign of neglect. Third-party examiners, huh? I wonder how they found no neglect. They're their parents. If they were going to neglect them, they would neglect them whether or not they went to public school. Stupid. The girls themselves described rigorous daily education. The judge convicted anyway. Like, if this is not evil, I don't know what is. Because a 15-year-old said she finds some music lyrics morally questionable, and because the curriculum did not include state-approved content on gender, said Julio Paul, legal counsel for Latin America at ADF International. That is so demonic. That's the epitome of evil. That's what that is. Because you're saying the kids have to learn to be diverse and learn about homosexual topics, transgender topics, and because the parents aren't putting them in school to learn and understand these things, they have to go to jail. What does this have to do with education? What does it have to do with education? Should we not leave families to have family values? Why do we have to force families to teach kids what the state wants the kids to learn about everything? Not math, not English, not science, not history, not comprehension, not writing. Everything but those core skills that everyone should have. Let's prosecute them for not putting them through our propagandized system. Okay. Considering that even in the propagandized system, they're not even going to be socially adept, because adults will be teaching them on how to be socially adept. They're going to be socially adept by clawing their way through years of grueling school, where they wake up every single morning at like 6 or 7 a.m. to go to a place where they absolutely hate sometimes, with people who they could care less about, be forced to have conversations surrounding things that aren't even really school. That's what public school is. It's just 18 years of torture. Not all the time, but just mostly. Sometimes it's fun. Like, I played sports in high school, so I could associate with some of that stuff. That stuff was fun, but you notice that stuff had nothing to do with subjects. It had everything to do with actually being a kid and exploring. And what happens when you're being homeschooled is you get to explore instead of having 45 minutes to an hour on each subject, because everyone has to be cohesive in performing for that worksheet or that homework or that assignment or what reading, whatever. At home, it's more laser focused. Hey, this is what we're doing today. Let's do it and be done with it. And then after that, you can go explore. Like there are so many different avenues around homeschooling and how to put your children through homeschooling. Like there's the no unlearning or no learning and stuff. Like there's so many different things that parents are trying that's actually working for their kids. Like some parents are doing the thing where like they do the school and then they'll teach the kids how to have business skills so the kids can grow up and do something right out of high school. It's awesome, but Brazil wouldn't know that because Brazil is stupid. Not the people, the government that's doing this stuff. Although parents were taken aback by the troubling conviction, they still have hope that the courts will change their verdict. If they do, then they have to allow people to start homeschooling their kids. As a mother, I cannot conceive a more dictatorial state than the one that wants me in jail because I choose to exercise my right to direct the education and upbringing of my daughters. My husband and I are hopeful the court will recognize our right to choose the best education for our children and overturn this unjust conviction. Lita, you said it, and I'm not sure how this is gonna. This is dictatorship. People often label Trump as a dictator, Nazi, whatever they call him. This is a dictatorship. If you don't do what the state says, you're going to jail. This is it. Why don't you move to Brazil so you can understand how free the US really is? This is dictatorship to the highest degree. Brazil has been locked in a tense homeschool legalization dispute for years, prolonged by unclear homeschooling laws and regulations, sparking both national and international awareness that have pressured lawmakers to act. Obviously not enough. In 2019, the Brazilian Supreme Court ruled that homeschooling does not violate the Constitution, but ordered federal lawmakers to officially codify. Evil. The country's National Congress has responded to the public outrage as they work to pass bill number whatever, which would authorize homeschooling under 3 conditions. At least one parent or guardian must have completed higher education. I think that's fair. But what's higher education? Like college? You want all of your citizens to complete college? Why? For a country that's so underdeveloped, you don't need people going into college. You need innovation. You need city public workers. Like you graduate college and you learn to become an electrician. You learn to become a plumber, a carpenter, someone who works to build the roads and repair them. You don't need a college educated person for that. You see, they're trying to shove people down this rabbit hole of like higher education, whereas the people in the government themselves need to go to higher education. Students must be linked to a public or private school for monitoring. I think that's also fair. If we're using a curriculum to help the kids learn, then someone has to oversee that curriculum. It's not a free-for-all. That's the whole point. There should be boundaries around it. But just saying strictly the only boundary is to send them to school is the stupidest thing because their schools aren't performing well. So you should give people the option, if they have the energy and capacity to educate their kids at home, let's do that. Let's examine it. Let's see how we can make it better, not just criminalize it. The program must follow National Common Curriculum base and include periodic learning assessments. I bet you if they give these parents the freedom, the resources, and the ability to educate their kids at home, they're going to surpass the public educational system. That's just how it works. When I'm focused on 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids at home, you find that they learn a lot faster and quicker. As you teach kid A, who may be in 3rd or 4th grade, the 1-2 grades behind them might hear some things and might pick up some things a lot quickly when they get to the 5th grade level. But no, let's not consider. Let's just send parents to jail. Let's penalize and criminalize them because they wanted to educate their kids at home. What? The bill passed in the House of Representatives in 2022, but has since stalled in Brazil's. Look, I'm done with this article. Hey, if you guys ever get a whiff of this case, just make a big deal out of it because apparently the people who want every kid to go through the public school system in Brazil, they need to go through the public school system. They need to be saved. They need Jesus. That's what they need because this makes absolutely 0 sense. It is completely foolish, and this is how you lead a nation into ruin. If you guys got any value out, if you've heard of this article or this thing going on, comment below. If you haven't, comment below. I want to hear your thoughts on this because then someone might say something that I didn't consider when it comes to public schooling, like the socializing thing, but that's been widely disproven. So if you have thoughts or concerns or ideas around this, comment them below. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Like the video, share it, subscribe. Catch you guys later. Peace.